This channel is me documenting my deep dive into trash cinema, and today I think I've peaked with the film Trilogy of Lust 2 Portrait of a Sex Killer, which is a 1995 film produced in Hong Kong and directed by a guy that only has made this film. And it's starring Julie Lee, who was also the actress in Trilogy of Lust 1, and by reading both movies' synopsis, I can only assume that this is the only thing those movies have in common. Because the first one sounds like a drama with serious topics, and this one has some serious topics, but they're kind of played for laughs at time. And this one might be the trashiest, sleaziest, vilest film I've ever seen, which is saying something, cause oh boy, I've seen a lot of trashy movies. So what is Trilogy of Lust 2 Portrait of a Sex Killer about? We follow our main character, whose name is Linda, and despite having the same name as her alcoholic aunt, she's actually a femme fatale type of character who uses her looks to seduce her victims and then, well, fucking murder them. And the movie makes sure to show us that this is gonna be the plot of the film from the first frame, where Linda is having this very vanilla sex compared to what she does in the rest of the film with this man, and then she murders him by banging his head with a rock, which is also pretty tame compared how she's gonna murder most of her victims in the rest of the film. I swear people, this one gets goofy. This is why I love this film. It doesn't waste any time, because right after the credit sequence we get another scene of Linda capturing a man, having sex with him, and then killing him in an absurd way. She's kind of like Jigsaw, if Jigsaw was a sexy Asian woman that seduced his victims. The second victim is a guy she picks up at a bar, and trust me, he was so horny it didn't take long for him to accept the offer from Linda, and he follows her into this kind of abandoned quarry looking thing, where already Linda is getting kind of too kinky for him because she forces him to wear this skull mask that kind of looks like the skull mask in Halloween 3. I'm pretty sure it's just that mask but repainted white. Which, if this is canon to Halloween 3, goddamn do I want an Halloween 4. But even with the mask, the scene starts kind of normal. You know, you have missionary, doggy, and then he pile drives her. But nothing will prepare you until she tells him that she wants to have more fun with him. I'm sorry if I mess up throughout this description, but I just have to prepare myself for what I'm about to say. So she attaches the guy to a pulley system while he's hanging like, I don't know, a pig in a slaughterhouse, and what she does for pleasure is she pulls him up and down inside of her somehow. I'm not sure about the physics of that, and then eventually, after he, finishes his business, she takes a stick, puts it down, and drops him on the stick, of course killing him. She had to invent a pulley system to kill a guy in a one-night stand. She's an engineer of sex kills. After what feels like to be 20 minutes of Cat 3 sex goofiness, we finally get to the plot. Somewhat. You see, in her normal regular day life, Linda is quite normal. In fact, she's just the boss at some office, but every employee hates her because, to no surprise, she's a bitch. I mean, I could have guessed that because she's a serial killer. Anyways, the people at her office are just talking behind her back until she shows up, and then they just pretend like nothing happened. And we meet another character in this film, Lily. And Lily is Linda's employee, and she doesn't really like Linda, and Linda doesn't really like her. Because the first interaction we have of them together is Linda calling her into her office and then yelling at her for what feels like forever about some bullshit, document at work, which I guess they work in Canadian television, because that's just my regular daily experience whenever I worked in television. Nothing like getting a call at your house at 9:30 p.m. of your boss just yelling at you for something you kind of just forgot but could have waited till tomorrow, but your boss is a psychotic asshole who probably murders women. Allegedly. So yeah, Lily is quite upset, and then she goes into a separate office to cry a little, and then we meet her boyfriend who comes to comfort her, but Lily doesn't need any comforting because she has a plan. And what is funny about this scene is that she tells her boyfriend that she wants revenge on Linda, and then her boyfriend, who's a grown-ass adult by the way, is like, oh, we could prank her and like wake her up at 4 a.m. How old are you, dude? 12? I know how to get revenge, we'll wake her up really early. And of course Lily is like, no, that's stupid. We should embezzle her. You seduce her, and then you take her money, and then we flee away from this shithole town. To which he's like, well, I can seduce any woman if I want to. And he doesn't have any success with that because I think Linda is a tad bit smarter than him. So his way of seducing her is first of all trying to give her a lift, which doesn't work, and then second of all going to her apartment and flying balloons next to her window. How old are you, dude? First you want to prank her by waking her up, and then you want to seduce her with balloons? She's an adult woman. Why, dude? And of course Linda, not being a happy woman, just stabs every balloon with like a little incense thing. Not incest, that'll be for later in the film. And then she burns herself, and we see, well, we could have probably guessed by that, that she's quite kinky, and then that she has a dungeon in her apartment where she does naughty stuff, including putting a toilet deblocker, I don't know how you call those, inside herself. And during that, she has flashbacks to the reason why she's a serial killer. You see, people, she was gang raped by her uncle and a bunch of his friends when they were drunk playing mahjong. Because this isn't a Cat 3 unless you've got grape and incest. And later in the film, we see a detailed scene of what happened. Then we get what is one of my favorite kills in the film. Linda goes back to her plans of seducing random men and then murdering them, which is exactly what she does when she finds a guy at some bar and then she brings him to a hotel. They have, you know, a bit of a kinky, naughty adult fun time, and then she decides to put an octopus on his penis and then take out a tacking machine, a stapler, and staple his entire body with staples, while the octopus does something to his penis, I guess. This is absurd. And then the motel owners find the scene and they're like, shit, we can't get police attention here, we'll just burn everything and we'll hide him in a dumpster. Which they do. The next day, Lily and her boyfriend are back at the office, and her boyfriend wants, you know, more naughty time, and she refuses until he accomplishes his mission of seducing Linda and then taking her money. Because he's a horny feller, he obliges. And Lily gives him, I think, the key to Linda's apartment so he could go at night and try to seduce her by breaking and entering. I don't know. But later that night, we see Linda sitting on a couch eating cold beans? What is she, Max Mofo from Cold Ones? Just there with her bushes or Heinz beans, just eating it, watching TV, like a sad woman in a romantic comedy from 2003, but it's not ice cream, it's cold beans. And then I thought I already loved this movie until this scene where she watches TV, and then the news tells the audience and our character that they found a dead body close to the motel. So we can assume it's the guy that she slept with last night. But the plot twist is, he has AIDS. Which sends Linda in a frenzy and a panic because, well, she doesn't want AIDS, which is normal. And the thing is, this HIV/AIDS situation is just forgotten about. It is never brought back in the entire movie. Linda leaves, and then he comes into the apartment to, again, seduce her by breaking and entering, and he discovers what she is, or who she is. But he also discovers a lot of things about himself. He finds the dungeon, and is like kind of hypnotized by the idea of kinky sex, so he decides to shove something up his asshole while touching himself until he ejaculates. This is about a 3-minute scene in this film of a man shoving a very big stick inside his asshole. I guess there's just some magical power in Linda's dungeon that just makes people insert things they shouldn't inside of them. We'll never know, because again, this plot goes nowhere. Well, kind of. Lily comes into the apartment eventually with her boyfriend, and she discovers that Linda might be the butcher murderer, I guess is what they call her, because she finds the body parts that Linda takes away from her victims and pickles in jars. And she is outraged, she wants to call the police, she's like, we got the killer, let's do it. But her boyfriend, being, I don't know, in love with Linda now, even though he just shoved a stick up his ass, just gets enraged and kills Lily. And I guess the old HIV thing gets into Linda's head, and she's just naked in this bus, and then she goes to a shop to get some gear, BDSM gear, of course, and then seduces a man at a bar, kills him, rips off his ears, I think, or his ear, and then she gets bothered by a homeless man, and she accidentally drops the ear, which will get police involvement in Linda's case. But not before we cut into another scene where she seduces a man and murders him violently through some complicated sex machinery. That's a sentence I just said. And then we get the full backstory of why Linda is like Linda. Why does she hate men? Why does she murder them? And yeah, the scene is completely vile and played seriously, and it'll make you very upset, because it's upsetting. Let's just say that I can't really describe any of this on YouTube, but it involves family members and non-consensual intercourse. And it goes on for a while. Now you're probably like, oh, so this is a Cat 3, so the police are gonna arrest her and she's gonna tell her entire story, blah blah blah, like any other stereotypical Cat 3. But no, like I said, this movie is bad with concluding stuff. So what happens to Linda is that she gets gang raped in this really weird, tonally terrible scene where there's slapstick comedy to the gang rape scene, and these guys, they just wear masks. Some of them are like these condom and tips hat masks. It is absurd. It's the stupidest, most ridiculous, out of this world way to conclude a film like this. The film is played seriously through most of the movie. The backstory of Linda is tragic. The things she does to cope with what happened to her are horrible. And then this movie has the balls to end the entire film with like a 10-minute gang rape scene with slapstick comedy, which leads Linda to die. Until that point, I was like, okay, this might be the trashiest, sleaziest Cat 3 film I've seen. And then the ending happens, and I'm like, it is. Why was that the ending? So, what did I think of Trilogy of Lust 2, Portrait of a Sex Killer? Well, I'm actually curious now, even more than I was before, to watch the first one. I know by reading the synopsis, I don't think they have anything to do with one another, other than the main actress, but man, if it can be half as crazy as this film, it'll be one of the craziest films I've seen. This movie pulls no punches. Think of it like Daughter of Darkness, another Hong Kong Cat 3 film that's quite sleazy that I might cover in the future, but even worse. The gall, the balls on these motherfuckers to end this film the way they ended it is amazing. This film is the antithesis to morality. It is vile, it is garbage, it's not even that good, but I loved it because it represents what I love about trash cinema, the attitude of not giving a single shit and just making what you think will sell to the public. And I'm not even sure that worked, because as I said, there's like 5 people who logged this on Letterboxd. There's about 100 IMDb ratings. Nobody has seen this movie. It's obscure. I somehow found it easily on an adult site, but I can't find the first one, which is more well known. This isn't a film. This is an experience in trash cinema, and I would highly not recommend it to anybody. Unless anything has sounded semi-acceptable during this entire review, which if it does, thank you and welcome to the Sleaze Club, you shouldn't watch this movie at all. Especially if you're easily offended, which at this point in this video you probably aren't that type of person. So yeah, Trilogy of Lust 2 gets a do not recommend to any sane human being, but I recommend to any people like me. See you guys next time.